So let's get started looking at some basic navigation features in Nuventive Solutions. Once you have opened up Solutions and gotten to your unit, if you select the hamburger on the far left, it'll open up a menu and you'll notice there's now a tab for PSLO assessment. Once you select that, you'll get a listing of all your PSLOs. So here in Public Health, we have 3 different awards and they're all listed here. Each PSLO is a separate, what we call card. So for our Community Health Worker program, we have 4 PSLOs, each one with a separate card. Now, if you want to see a specific degree, what you can do is filter here. So let's say I want to just look at the PSLOs for the AST. I filtered here by that related degree, and now all I see are my PSLOs for Public Health AST. To remove that, simply click there. So let's start with the Community Health Worker PSLO1. If you go to the dots on the far right and say Open, it will open to reveal a new form. The first page, the first tab, lists the actual PSLO statement. You'll notice that there is another tab on the far right called Mapping Analysis and Assessment. This is where we want to begin. So select that tab. And you'll see here I'm still in that first PSLO for the Community Health Worker 1. If I then add by clicking the green circle, a form opens up, and the first thing we need to do is indicate the assessment year, which is 24-25. You'll notice the form has 2 sections. The first is mapping analysis. The second is results and closing the loop. Let's look at the mapping analysis first. So the first question asks you to identify the focus for this PSLO. So looking at the help text, it says, when considering this PSLO, what is the expected level of mastery, introduced, practiced, or developed, students would achieve as a result of meeting this PSLO? Since this is a entry-level position, I would expect that they would at least practice this skill. So we'll type that in there. And then the next thing that needs to be done is we need to review the IPD mapping. So let's take a moment to review our maps and how to analyze our mapping. You'll notice that there's a URL in the header. There's also a page in the right-hand data view that has the link. This will take us to the folder with all of the maps. So by selecting this link, holding Control, it will open a new page. And on this page, we'll find all the folders that contain the maps. So let's go down to Public Health since we're working in the Public Health area. And you'll notice here's the Community Health Worker. So if I open that up, and again, remember I'm working on PSLO 1, and I said that I would expect students to at least practice this. I'll look to see at the different levels that the different CSLOs were associated with that PSLO. And just in general, notice that not all of the CSLOs have to be mapped to a PSLO, but you'll notice that each course has at least one CSLO mapped to at least one PSLO. And you'll also notice the different levels of association or levels of development, levels that the CSLO supports the PSLO. And so for PSLO 1, the focus that we identified was practice, and you'll notice that we have practiced, introduced, practiced, and practiced. So we have several CSLOs that support the development of this PSLO, and they come in at the levels of introduced and practiced. So if we go back over to Solutions and look at the help text, it says to review the IPD mapping, which we just did. We need to assess the coverage of introduced, practiced, or developed and identify in the column for the PSLO. We just did that. Are there opportunities for students to identify, practice, and develop to allow them to achieve the PSLO's expected level of mastery? All right, so we just did that. We looked and we noticed that it was practiced was the focus and that we had both introduced and practiced in the map. And so we've typed in there are both introduced and practiced levels of mastery mapped between CSLOs and PSLOs, providing opportunities for students to achieve the focus level.